Welcome to the Yeah We Know podcast, part of the More You Knows podcasting network. You're in the ring with Jimmy, Chris, and Rod. And Rod, we all know what you're hot about. Go for it.
Listen, we all know it happened on Monday Night Raw. I promise all of our faithful listeners and viewers that I will get there. But Jimmy, I had a little bit of time today to stew in my anger, and I had a little bit of time today to think about trying to be a podcaster for the people. Jimmy, your scathing criticism of me a few weeks back about how all I do is talk about Seth Rollins and Charlotte Flair is ringing in my head. And so I do not want to subject the good people that take the time out of their schedules to listen to us at the top of the podcast with my nonsense about Seth Rollins. I promise I will get there, but we should probably start with the man on my sweatshirt.
So Chris, the man talks. I don't know what you're doing on your thing. That's fine. We're live. It's good. Chris, the man talks about Seth Rollins when he's not on a show. Talks about Seth Rollins when he just wears some fun things. Does not talk about Seth Rollins when he is key to two huge shows over the weekend. Does that surprise you, first of all? And number two, I need an old man take.
So it almost doesn't surprise me because he actually mentioned that we need an investigation on our little group thread chat. And I think he is reneging on that, and he doesn't want to be associated with the ideas that I have put forth on this show. So I am not surprised that he has backed off that hot take, so to speak.
Wait a minute. I don't know that I said I backed off anything. Now I'm going to have to come out swinging because I've been accused of something here. I don't know that I said I backed off anything. I just think I said I put it on pause. And I thought maybe we could tackle some of the things that were a little bit bigger in the world of professional wrestling than Bronson Reed. Okay. Somebody who literally I'm not going to
see. Close. You're so close, Rob, because we do need this investigation into Adam Pearce. That is important in the WWE universe, is to get him out of that GM chair in Raw.
All right, let's cut to the chase here, gentlemen. All right, let's cut to the chase. Chris, through the magic of audio, later on, our listeners are going to hear Sarah, who was live at SummerSlam. And I'm going to let her describe the pop that Roman Reigns got when he came back as the head of the table and took out Solo Sikoa. Rod, how awesome was that moment?
That moment was great. Listen, as Sarah lovely describes it, I won't give it away either, but I had that same feeling because I shot up out of my seat, right? I shot up out of my seat and I said, holy smokes, it's Roman Reigns back. I said, the man is coming back for 2 minutes. After essentially a 4-hour pay-per-view, he's coming back for 2 minutes and he's absolutely going to steal the show. Looked like $1 million damn dollars. There still was that question in our head as he approached the ring. Who indeed was he going to interfere with when he stepped inside the ring? And Roman Reigns is turning babyface. And this man right here gets to be at the front of the bus because I was the only one carrying weight for Roman Reigns when he was the heel on this podcast. And you two jokers were always talking about how terrible he was and you wanted to see him shoved to the side.
Chris King, you have been the biggest Roman hater on this podcast by far. Is this a we don't care segment, or do you actually care about the biggest pop in the history of the past probably 5 years in wrestling?
Ooh, the biggest pop in the last 5 years. I don't know. I haven't been watching that long. I don't know if it's the biggest pop that I've heard since I've been watching. Besides that, I think it's important. I think it was good. I think the WWE really kind of spelled out for us over the course of SummerSlam exactly what was going to happen and who he was going to Superman punch when he came out, right? Because if nothing else, SummerSlam taught us that we are breaking up groups.
We had a lot of storylines, Rod, in SummerSlam. The first time we've had really a pay-per-view that had this many title changes, storyline advancements that all kind of make sense, and they're really going towards not even Survivor Series, but even further on than that.
Nia Jax and LA Knight won belts at SummerSlam, and it feels like they won a belt a week and a half ago, and it was the same exact show, right? And that just speaks to how many things were happening there, because we got Rhea and Dom and Liv kick off the show, right? So we already have a seismic bomb right there that's going to go off in social media and have the 7-second clip of Dom making out with Liv. How easy is that to sell? So that goes out there, makes a thing, right? Then Nia Jax fights, LA Knight, Logan Paul fight. We don't really get the big Logan Paul spot like we've gotten in times past. You know what I mean? He kind of just went down. We had the brass.
I think he got hurt. I think he got hurt.
Is that what happened?
Yeah.
Which is also not the first time Logan Paul's gotten hurt in a match. So, you know,
yeah.
But I think that the fact that you guys wanted so desperately for LA Knight to become US champ, and then we wanted so desperately for Nia Jax not to become champ, and both of those things happened, and we almost seem to not care about it, just speaks to how many things were worked on in SummerSlam.
This goes to show why this is probably the last one-day SummerSlam they're going to have. Because if you take that Nia Jax Bayley match was unfortunate. It was people were tired, and they really didn't have the investment in that match as they did with any of the other matches on the show. So that was unfortunate because they worked very hard and they had a decent match. It also goes to show why they're probably not going to have too many more outdoor WrestleMania, SummerSlam events because as Sarah's child said, "Mom, are we going to die?" Because it was so hot and humid out there. That give it to the crowd, though. They were still pretty into it. We got to give LA Knight, our boy. I'm so excited.
Wait a minute. Hold on real quick.
Okay.
I got to examine this, Jim. If I didn't examine this, the podcast people would be mad at me. All right. So you're saying that the WWE is going to agree to sell less tickets? How exactly is that going to work?
Oh, no.
So you're saying they're just going to cut out large swaths, of the country for where they will have their premium live events.
They're not going to do it in an outdoor stadium as much. Nick Khan said as much where in WrestleMania especially.
Good luck getting 50,000 indoors, Jimmy.
The
65, 74, others numbers they like to get sometimes. Good luck getting those indoor.
Lucas Oil Stadium seats 65,000 for football.
Yeah,
so think about another 5,000, 10,000 seats that they can cram in there. And that's where they're going. I mean, they're going to Lucas Oil Stadium for 3.
Okay, people don't come to me for how many seats are in stadiums. All right. That's not what people come to me for. But I just feel like you go to outdoor stadiums because rock concerts play outdoor stadiums because they got more seats. So I just assumed that outdoor stadiums had more seats than indoor stadiums. I apologize.
No, not at all.
And our listeners.
Not at all. But hey, for our listeners and viewers live right now, if you want to throw something in the chat, we will answer it. If you have any questions, comments, you have any reviews of any matches, throw them in there and we'll definitely talk about it because LA Knight, we have been on the LA Knight bandwagon for so long. And he reached a high on the hot list. He was off the hot list for a little bit. The crowd reaction, the match itself. Rod, I know you're not a huge LA Knight guy. We'll get to LA Knight in-ring guy. But, Chris, I want to go to you first. What'd you think of the match, and how satisfying was it to have LA Knight pull out the win?
I was very satisfied with the match. I do think that Logan Paul did have a moment when he did his back swan dive off the top rope. That was real social media-esque for him. It was beautiful still shot that you could get from there. So I think he got his little thing. Of course, I'm thrilled see my guy with a belt around his waist. All right. Yeah. How long have we been waiting for that? Of course, I'm excited. He foiled the brass knuckles. I am so happy.
No sold the brass knuckles, by the way. No sold them.
Yep. I'm so happy too because I am an anti-MGK guy. So like any kind of friend or association of his, I despise. So Logan Paul fell further. Thank you, God, for letting LA Knight win this match.
Chris is praying to the Lord himself that LA Knight won, and he did. Rod, does this mean that we don't like Jelly Roll now because MGK and him were kind of together?
I don't know. I was gonna say I had no idea that Chris had such strong takes on Machine Gun Kelly. I really, if you'd have given me a lot of guesses as to somebody that Chris was anti, like just the fact that Chris knows any of his music, I think is actually pretty amazing. So I mean, shout out to Machine Gun Kelly in a weird way there, I suppose. But here's my thing with the LA Knight match, Jimmy. Fine, he wrestled it fine. He wrestled it a little bit better than my expectations. Okay.
Let's go.
But the no selling of the brass knuckles at the end, I'm sorry. I have a big problem with it. Brass knuckles have been involved in too many storylines throughout history. They've been involved in storylines with Logan Paul. And then for LA Knight to take brass knuckles to the head, all of a sudden just pop up and then pass out a BFT is just ridiculous. I mean, it's just ridiculous. Logan Paul won the belt that he was wearing that LA Knight took from him by beating Rey Mysterio with brass knuckles. And Rey Mysterio, I believe, is still laying on the ground in Saudi Arabia where they left him during that match. All right. That's how long he was trying to sell being hit by brass knuckles. Our guy, LA Knight, barely even hit the ground. He just got knocked back into the rope and kind of shook his head for a second. And then all of a sudden we're supposed to believe he can deliver a BFT, which he couldn't even pull off earlier in the match when Logan Paul was dazed. Come on.
You're missing the big picture here, Rod. It's not because he got hit with brass knuckles. It was because he got hit with these brass knuckles, which weren't brass knuckles. They were a fake cheap ass necklace from MGK. So it wasn't going to hurt anybody who got hit with it.
Okay, so he's a fraud. You would think they'd be real, but since it's him, they're cheap and plastic. Rod, he's got you there. I'm not going to lie. He's got you there.
He does. Listen, he knows how to paint me into a corner. He's debated with me for many, many years, and he knows how to put me into a corner, and he knows there's no circumstances that I had any clue about Machine Gun Kelly's wardrobe, so he's got me. He's got me there knowing that those were fake brass knuckles.
Quick shout out to Corey Nance. You're looking good too, brother. Thank you. Corey Nance is doing one of three things, Rod. Corey Nance is either fishing, grilling, or listening to the Yeah We Know podcast, You're in the Ring with Jimmy, Rod, and Chris. I mean, that's what he's doing. And
there's a very good chance that there might be a child grabbing at his leg or asking him to do something as well. That is always a very good chance with all of the children that are running around over there at the Nance household.
That is true.
Pretty sure that happens 24/7 to him, whether he's fishing, grilling said fish, or listening to the podcast.
With speaking of artists, first of all, I always hate when they do musical acts to start the show and everything like that, because we're not here for that. We're here for wrestling, but whatever, it's fine. Jelly Roll is a huge artist and as a current artist, which is good. Yeah, I did that, Rod. No, I did, and I'm an ass, and I did not.
I was wondering where Jimmy was pulling. I was like, what word is he pulling for here?
No, but anyway, Austin Theory.
I love it.
Gave the greatest bump you can to a non-wrestler. That choke slam, Austin Theory jumped 6 feet in the air and took that choke slam. Jelly Roll just had to put his arm up, put his arm down. That's it. Terrific job. And shout out to Jelly Roll. Kind of moved pretty good in there.
Took a bump, right? Went down to the mat. Right? I mean, listen, that mat is not as padded as people think. All right. So for Jelly Roll to take that big mass that he has and to drop that down to the mat, he felt that for a second. All right. And it wasn't going to be easy for Jelly Roll to get back up. That was my favorite part of the segment, is how long we basically had to keep the camera tight on the backs of Theory and Waller to allow for Jelly Roll to get over the stanchion, to get down to outside the ring, and then to get up the stairs and in. But of course, our guy, our Truth, Chris. I mean, if it wasn't for our Truth, I don't know if that segment is any good.
Right. I mean, the guy is a national treasure. I know we say this all the time, but does he do anything wrong that we see?
No.
I mean, it is pure entertainment. It is awesome. I love Awesome Truth. Because of our Truth, I am now a big fan of The Miz. All right. Give me more Miz. So big fan.
1,336 losses for The Miz in his WWE career, and people still like him. Shout out to that guy, man, proving that you can make a professional wrestling career out of doing a lot of different things.
Chris, what was the biggest story coming out of the Bloodline? Was it Finn Balor ripping the heart out of Damian Priest?
You mean Judgment Day or Bloodline?
I meant Judgment Day, not Bloodline. Looking at something. Solo Sikoa, that's not him. Or Rhea Ripley losing her man to Liv Morgan. What was the bigger shock to you there, bud?
Well, I'm going to circle back a la Williams, and I want to say that there happens to be maybe a contest going on in the WWE, is like who can jump the highest for choke slams, because JD McDonough tried to outdo Theory on Monday night in that match with Priest. So I will say that the biggest story is Liv, not Liv and Dom, not Liv and the tag team champs. It's just Liv. She has literally done what she set out to do and take everything from Rhea. Her man, her belt, her team. No more Judgment Day for Rhea. Liv has it all.
Yeah, Liv set out to do something, Rod, and she did. You got to be pretty happy for your namesake there.
Yeah, but I'm not, right? I'm not. You have to look back basically at the Liv Morgan arc here, and she had to cash in on an injured Ronda Rousey. You know what I mean? She got the belt from Rhea here, and Rhea has to put it down for an injury that she supposedly caused to her backstage in a nefarious situation. Wins this belt, so it's unfortunate, right? And I think to myself, like, we all understand that Rhea Ripley looks one way and the majority of her other opponents look another way, but this is still professional wrestling. This is still a world where we were building characters. I just wish we would have chosen another path to get Liv or somebody as a worthy adversary for Rhea Ripley. And you can tell me.
I got to ask you a question, Rod. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I got to ask you a question because in my mind, I thought Liv performed in a way that made it believable that she could put a fight up against Rhea Ripley. Did you not have that same thought?
Yeah, but in the end, it had to be Dominic Mysterio causing a distraction twice, throwing a chair in the ring, and having her blown oblivion onto the chair for her to be able to pull it off, right?
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
so
And then
that's typical Dom stuff, right? I mean, don't we expect that from Dom? I mean, he has thrown chairs at numerous women to try to get them to do things for the past 5 months.
Oh, you're not wrong that the storyline called for Dom to do this, no doubt. I'm just disappointed that that's the way we chose to go with Liv Morgan, right? Like and I also don't know if there's a way you can write this storyline where she takes everything from Rhea that doesn't involve taking Dom, but it still to me reeks of we can't figure out a way to give Rhea Ripley any real thing to do other than a man is actually the one who's screwing her, right? And it's just, or she's playing with the men, and it's unfortunate, right? And with this other news that we got dropped after the A&E Legends last Sunday, I mean, my girl, I'm not going to mention her name here because Jimmy gets mad when I do. She's currently not around. Like, we don't have anybody that seems a worthy adversary for Rhea Ripley, and I continue to sound the alarm bells about that, Jim.
Well, I think the psychological aspect of this feud is the direction they want it to go. So you're not going to have Liv doing all the physical stuff to win, but she's doing the psychological to break down Rhea to maybe make her not as fierce. So that's where they went with that, because you're right. They don't have someone right now that can go against Rhea in that way. After this feud is over, then you start to think of who that next person is, because you have to believe at some point Rhea Ripley is going to walk out the champion again. Hopefully that's at a Royal Rumble coming up. Maybe that'd be kind of cool. If not, because I see over the next couple of months you're going to have the mixed tag matches, and we'll see what happens. I like this new 2-person Judgment Day. That also means that they have to Rhea and the Archer of Infamy himself, Damian Priest, need to maybe find some new friends too. So that would be kind of interesting.
That is, I did have that thought, right? I started thinking back to my days of when Damian Priest was a bit of a babyface and some of the guys that he sort of ran around with and was always talking to. And one of them actually, don't think there's a chance we're going to see this guy, but Damian Priest and Riddle used to cut it up backstage quite often, right? Priest was always like, hey, my guy Riddle, and Riddle was always saying, what's up to my guy Priest? And they were always kind of cutting segments in the back. I don't think we're going to see Riddle back on WWE TV anytime soon. So
no, I don't think so. No.
And then I actually has a real life husband, right? But I don't think we're going to see him on WWE TV anytime soon either.
Yeah. I had to stop following Matt Riddle on Twitter. He got real weird, real quick.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It does. Sami Zayn was squashed by Braun Breaker. And guys, I think he's going to lose 2 straight falls next week. I think Braun Breaker's here to dominate. You like what happened here, Chris?
I still feel like this is what should have happened at the last Premium Live event. I mean, I really do. Like, it was a quick kind of no holds barred type match. Like, everyone got hard hits in, and it was quick, 11 minutes maybe. I think that's how it should be, and I think that's how it should have been the first time around. I do think if you want to really sell Braun as a legitimate dude, he's got to have a little bit of a run.
I think
bums
he's
me
going to
out,
have a
though.
long bit of a run.
That bums me out because, yeah, we just had somebody who had the Intercontinental Championship forever. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like I struggle with that because, Chris, you're right. You know what I mean? Like, we ultimately should need Braun to have a run with the belt because we just put the belt on him. We want Braun to be something, right? But I struggle with, like, how do we actually achieve that for guys and don't always have to have it revolve around the belts? Because then I worry about if the belts stay on guys for long, then you're going to get stale with it, Chris, the way you did with Roman Reigns having the belt forever, right? And I understand that's a bad comparison to draw because Roman had one of the longest reigns we've ever seen. But I just like, is there another way that we can tell stories, right? Like, why do we have to completely squash Sami Zayn and then also give Braun Breaker an incredibly long Intercontinental Championship
The
run?
only way that I could see them making it where there is legitimate challenges to Braun Breaker, if they want to keep Braun Breaker as this strongman type dude, is he has to have a heavy duty series with the other heavy hitters up there. Then that's your Bronson Reeds, that's your Braun Strowmans, that's your big dudes that could, in anybody's eyes, legitimately give Braun Breaker a run for his money. And you got to have some legitimate matches in the ring with those guys. Maybe bring Ivar back in to fight him. We know he is strong and good coming off the top rope too.
Jimmy, let me ask you a question because you know about these things better than Chris and I. Are the days of dudes wrestling lots of matches on TV over? Like, are those days just over? Or can a guy like Braun Breaker, the young Steiner himself in his 20s, right? Can we just see Breaker? He doesn't have to fight any of the guys Chris is talking about, right? Like, what about he just fights all the time? Like Breaker just the Intercontinental belt is just up like every Monday night, right? Boom. Breaker's fighting somebody every Monday night. Not the stupid open thing where they truck out people, but just we notice after a week, like, oh my God, Braun Breaker's fighting another guy and another guy. You know what I mean? And like we just notice, holy smokes, this guy's got 16 straight title defenses together, right? Chris, something else you always talk about. These guys never have belt defenses up, right? So if we want Braun Breaker to run for a long reign, why don't we make the semblance of a long reign, but actually have it happen in a short amount of time? Jimmy, what do you think about my fantasy booking there?
So instead of Roman Reigns having 12 matches over 3 years, we have those 12 matches in a 3-month time frame. Yeah, I think we could do that. I've always wanted Raw and SmackDown to start off with an Intercontinental Championship match or an US Championship match or a Lucha match, some really good, solid 7 to 9 minute matchup to start every show, gets people excited. Then you go into your interview segment, whatever that would be to set up the main event later. So yeah, I think that can definitely be done. I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, these new intros too, right, Chris? Like we're seeing where guys are starting outside or they're starting in their trailers in the back,
With
you know what I
their
mean?
dog.
Or any of that stuff, right? Like we could just open the show with one of those, right? Give us a long Goodfellas tracking shot into a 12-minute match that has a commercial break in between, and you got us. I think Jimmy's onto something here.
Yeah, no, you get right into the action, and that because there's been too many times where sorry to do this to your boy Rod, but I have to listen to 5 minutes of crowd chants before I get to hear anybody talk, let alone have a chance at seeing somebody wrestle.
Okay. Speaking of wrestling, we had a huge culmination of a feud here. And by culmination, I mean probably first of like 7 more matches. CM Punk versus Drew McIntyre with Seth Rollins as your special guest ref. And I said this to Rod earlier. The match was fine. Everything worked okay. Too much emphasis on Seth Rollins. This was a blood feud. I didn't like Seth Rollins being involved here. The bracelet for McIntyre and Punk is fine. But when Punk got so upset at Seth Rollins because he picked up the bracelet and put it on his wrist because it was on the ground, I hated that ending. I didn't like it at all. Punk, I thought, did a really good job. He did not get hurt from all I know, so that is a win. And they are continuing to move on with this. I think I know what Rod feels like. Chris, I want to hear you, then we're going to go to Rod.
Well, I mean, it's apparent that your boy just snapped, right? He can't control himself when it has to do with that bracelet and Larry, his dog, I guess. I don't know. I'm not I mean, you know where I stand, Jimmy, all right? Because I've told you guys in the past that we need a referee union. We need some stuff to solidify these things so we don't have to have these guys who have never refereed a match in their entire career all of a sudden don the stripes and get to do whatever they want to. I have never heard the WWE be so, hey, the referee called it this way, and that's the final say so. Like, this is the WWE. I've never heard that before this year. It's been crazy to me. I loved the outcome of this match, though, because Drew got his revenge. It is a little bit too little too late, if you ask me, because Drew should have a belt around his waist. He should have been defending that against Gunther that night instead of dealing with CM Punk and Rollins. But I loved every second of it because my guy survived to go to sleep and still came out on top.
So, Jimmy, I guess I would say to our humble podcast partner there, Chris, if he has a question as to why Drew McIntyre doesn't have a belt anymore, perhaps he should just play back the beginning of his answer to you there about someone losing their cool and reacting too emotionally to a situation. Perhaps maybe that's why your guy Drew doesn't have a belt.
Right, so like somebody didn't just don a fake referee outfit and go out into the ring and pretend to be calling the match and then interfere a second time after that in a championship match. No, that didn't happen. You're defending CM Punk now, Rod?
Sort of, I guess, because I want to echo a little bit of what Jimmy said there. I was impressed with CM Punk as a wrestler, right? I've talked many times that I know of the legend of CM Punk. The fact that people chant his name down my throat on WWE television at all times got a little loathsome to me, and I got a little sick of it. And then the fact that this guy would show up and call himself the best in the world, and I never saw him wrestle. And then I knew he wrestled a couple of times over in AEW, but I know even people over there were like, why isn't this guy wrestling? And then the few times that he did wrestle, he got hurt. And so I was impressed that he got through the match, that we haven't heard about an injury to him. I, as you would be shocked to hear, have no problem with the match being a little too much about Seth Rollins and his Shawn Michaels inspired pants that he was wearing and his guest referee spot. I like that. CM Punk, shout out to Bret Hart as well. And then Drew McIntyre wearing the long duster, shouting out the Undertaker. Gotta love the WWE, always going back to their history for outfits and matches. But yeah, I think it was kind of a weak ending, Jim. As much as I was mad about the brass knuckles, I got to be mad about this here. CM Punk wants nothing more than to tear apart Drew McIntyre. Drew McIntyre can be torn apart right behind him. CM Punk the night before said he wanted to stop him from breathing, put him in the dirt, all the above. And then the fact that Seth Rollins has a bracelet clearly is telling him, hey, man, whatever, I'll give it back to you in a second, right? He didn't say those exact words, but that's basically his point. And CM Punk loses it. I thought that was a weak ending too. But I'm not surprised because I think we're going to see a long feud between Seth and CM Punk here.
Oh, I think so too. Speaking of weak endings, all right, I loved Priest and Gunther. I loved the match. I thought it was terrific. I love the Finn Balor putting the foot on the rope. That was great. His eyes, he just looks evil, and I love that. I knew they were going to do the sleeper ending because of what happened on the last week's Raw. I thought the sleeper ending was anticlimactic. I really did. I don't know if that's a good, in 2024, a good way to end a match like that. Other than that, terrific. Gunther going to be a terrific champion for years and years to come, unless he loses to Randy Orton. But that's something else. Chris, what'd you think?
I thought it was a great match. I was rooting for Damian Priest. I wanted him to win. I was a little bit, even though I shouldn't have been, I was a little bit shocked that we saw the Finn Balor backstab. Now, we saw little hints of it, I guess, in some of the vignettes from backstage, but I really wasn't expecting it at SummerSlam. So it caught me for a loop. I liked the match a lot.
Okay. Rod?
Definitely surprised me as well. Mad at myself that I didn't see it coming, right? We definitely had all of the signs, and then it's one of those that once he does it, you're like, oh, yeah, of course, and then it also slaps me in the face that, like, this is the only way that Finn Balor can become interesting to me again, right? Which he hasn't been for a long, long time. So, I definitely should have seen that coming. But overall, I also love the karma of Priest, who kind of didn't want his 2 championship defenses to be Schmozzy, and then Schmozzy takes him down in the end. So kind of the karmic retribution there. I think it's supposed to help him get over as a baby face, but I don't know, Jimmy. I mean, as kind of the popologist here on the podcast, I don't know that the responses he got on Monday Night Raw were as big as they were hoping. I'm not saying they were bad, but I think Triple H and some in the back were hoping for bigger reactions to certain Damian Priest moments on Monday night than they got. So
I thought he was pretty over on Monday. I thought it was okay.
Over enough, but I don't think he was as over as they wanted him to be.
Okay.
In my opinion, but I could be wrong. I'm not a popologist, as I said.
And then finally on SummerSlam, we already talked about the main event. The next Bloodline Rules match they have, everyone just needs to start in the ring and beat the crap out of each other. Like, I don't understand why they just don't do that. That's the one thing about these matches. That
it's kind of cheap to give us the beavers.
Why wouldn't you just all go in and do it?
Yeah. So I've heard this match like 3 or 4 times since I came back to watch, and essentially it just means no rules, correct?
Yeah, correct.
So why call it Bloodline Rules if there's just no rules?
Why call it a Seth Rollins rules match?
Just a gimmick. Just a gimmick. Yeah, that's all it is, Chris.
They had brawn panty matches before. I mean, we got to have a gimmick for a match. You know what I mean? Like they'll have any reason for a match. Dominic Mysterio's dad, Rey Mysterio, fought Eddie Guerrero for custody of Dom. Now Dom may have Liv and Rhea might fight for custody for him. You know, I mean, it'll be the first person in WWE history to have 2 custody matches for him fought in their history. You know, I mean, we just got to have a reason for guys to get it on, Chris. Come on.
All right, Rod, it's time. Raw, very solid Raw. Had some great matches. We need to talk about
Randy Orton. You want to talk about Randy Orton coming out and getting a huge pop from the crowd because he was surprised Gunther? That's what you want to talk about?
No, I don't want to talk about that.
You want to talk about Chad Gable and the Wyatt Six? You want to talk about?
I want to talk. Yes, actually, Dexter Lumis was amazing. I thought that was great. Real quick, I do want to talk about that, Chris. No spookiness. Wrestling match. Thoughts?
This is awesome.
Good.
What do you mean no spookiness? That's ridiculous to say.
Well,
no spookiness.
Sorry, no, like extra, like no magic, no anything like that.
Oh yeah, because everybody that wrestles a 3-man tag team match has somebody sitting in the walkway in a rocking chair with somebody in front of them with a spider web painted all over their face and a lantern lit up. Jim, that's right. Everybody has matches wrestled that way.
It's awesome, Rod.
Yeah,
get on board.
I'm not saying it's not awesome. I'm just saying Jimmy.
The crowd was correct.
They were not spooky, and they were
chanting. They were chanting for it before the match was 30 seconds old. All right, like instantaneous. The crowd was behind this. It was great theatrics. It's great entertainment. It's exactly what you need in the WWE.
And I think it is behind Bray Wyatt, and I worry how long they will be behind it. Well, because this is not Bray Wyatt.
But the guys who wrestled did a really good job.
I'm not saying they did
a very good job.
I'm not saying they did it. We talk all the time about how certain storylines should go ways and then storylines are flawed from the start. And I'm putting my oar into the river first as I am a bit worried about how over any of these people will get. Because once they realize, hey, all right, we've done the Bray Wyatt Firefly thing a little bit and we've seen him come out with the lantern a little bit. And then what are we doing? And I worry about it, Jim. I'm just putting my oar in the ocean first. Not the ocean. I guess you don't really put oars in the ocean. You put oars more in rivers.
Yeah, but
you can put an oar wherever you want, Rod.
They're out there defending families, and that's why Chad Gable's in their sight, because he has turned his back on his family, and they are teaching him a lesson that people can get behind these vigilantes.
The Wyatt Six, the poster child of families, the Wyatt Six.
I do want to shout out Sheamus and Ludwig Kaiser. They had a really solid heart.
I was gonna say that's what you wanted to talk about, right? Was Butch? Butch, don't call me Butch Pete Dunne. That's what you wanted to talk about?
Pete, don't call me Butch Dunne.
We all want to talk about something. And Chris, listen, you hinted at it, and I'm absolutely with you. Adam Pearce should be ashamed of himself right now. His number 1 stud on Monday night is out in the ring getting squashed by a nobody, and he's nowhere to be found. We got these so-called officials out here in suits that know that Bronson Reed should be stopped. They're afraid to stop Bronson Reed, so they're not doing anything. But not a single one of them is smart enough to realize if Bronson Reed's jumping at something, why don't we stop him from jumping at something by removing his target? Nobody thought to themselves to just drag Seth Rollins out of the ring. So all of those people that were out there should be fired. Adam Pearce should be drawn up on charges right now. And I don't know how Bronson Reed wasn't arrested in Omaha, Nebraska. This is the nation's heartland. These people are about values and corn and state fairs and goodness. And they saw a man from New Zealand or Australia. I'm not entirely sure, and it doesn't
Oh.
matter. He's not from here. They saw a man who's not from here smashing a Heartland hero from Davenport, Iowa, and he was allowed to get out of town. Something needs to be done. This is a travesty, what Bronson Reed has done. I hope and pray for the Rollins/Lynch family that Seth will be okay. I hope that this has not somehow jaunted his fashion sense. I hope that this hasn't hurt his vocal cords so that he can still come out and drop wonderful promos for the people. Oh, Bronson Reed, if I only could find you, I wouldn't be able to do anything about it, but I would try to drum up a lot of support for you to be put away.
Jimmy, I gotta ask you this because I am 100% behind everything that Rod is saying as far as it goes to investigations and Adam Pearce. But I gotta ask you a question, all right? Because we talked about a long-term feud between Rollins and Punk, right? What is a purpose of bringing someone like a Bronson Reed or anybody out of the blue like that to attack Rollins? Like,
Great question. Great question, Jimmy. Defend the WWE here. Great question, Chris. This is why you are becoming a fabulous wrestling podcaster.
Bronson Reed, to that audience, was made a superstar in approximately 9 minutes because of who he went after and what he did, and he continuously did it. Now, it depends on what they do next week and the week after, because not every crowd is going to be this crowd. But you want to continuously make stars. As you said, Rod, in your opening soliloquy, Bronson Reed was just kind of a mid-carder. Did some good things, got beat a lot. He's a monster, but is he really? Well, he had it, and now he is a monster. So the WWE and Triple H and they're trying to make a new star. And what better way to make a star than A, have him beat up a huge babyface, and B, have him then in a program with quite possibly the best wrestler in the world.
Easy.
It's a win-win. Oh, Rollins is one of the best wrestlers in the world. There's no question about it.
We all know you were referring to your boy Punk.
Oh, no, I was Rollins, but
Rollins. Punk was long gone by then because I got to give Punk credit for realizing that he needed to get the hell out of the ring.
It was Punk's segment to begin with, so let's not pretend. And anytime Jimmy says best in the world, I feel like he's trying to put Punk into the conversation somehow.
No, Jimmy gives Seth Rollins all of his flowers as he should. Yeah. Seth Rollins is one of the best professional wrestlers on the planet. I don't know what's going on in the New Japan circuits much these days, but AEW doesn't have anybody. Well, MJF's pretty good, but
they got a couple good ones. But Rollins is still up there for sure.
I guess Osprey's pretty good too.
Yeah. But seriously though, like I'm trying to see if nope. I think they did a great job. Let's see what happens. Let's see what happens next week. That's
okay.
It.
Do you have confidence in their ability to do something from this? Because I, like you, want big stars. I want matches that people care about. We've seen ratings tick down a little bit. If you listen to your guy Meltzer, it's all because of the Olympics. If you listen to other people, it's all because Roman Reigns has been gone for a little while. So I want to build up more and more stars. Do you think we'll be able to actually get something out of this for your guy Bronson here, Jim? Because I'm not so sure.
I'm not sure either, but let's look at this before we exit here. Bronson Reed, Seth Rollins. You want to make a star? Have Bronson Reed win that feud after 2 or 3 matches. Okay. Then he moves on to Drew McIntyre, CM Punk, and the other one then goes to Seth Rollins. So let's say that Bronson Reed then probably goes to Drew McIntyre. Drew McIntyre can lose to Bronson Reed. He definitely can. So then you build Bronson Reed up for that ultimate clash against a Braun Breaker for a Intercontinental Championship. Or, and I think that's where they're going, or eventually to have a Gunther match where everyone knows Gunther's still going to win, but Bronson Reed belongs in the ring with him.
I love everything you just said, except you left out Ilya Dragunov from any of your description there. That bothers me. But everything that you just said, I love that.
Except that Gunther's not going to have the belt at that point in time, because one thing you guys have religiously pounded into my skull as a wrestling fan is that the WWE screws the hometown hero. Where's the next premium live event? I believe it's a Bash somewhere, Berlin, Germany. I don't think Gunther's going to come out of there with the belt.
He's from Austria. He's from Austria. All right. His name is Walter, and he's from Austria. All right. His name is not Gunther, and he's not actually from Germany. Right. So that would be the first thing that I would say.
Number 2 is Vince McMahon did that. Triple H hasn't done that as much. Even though
I've
shut up. Nothing else happened at all. Nothing happened. Thank you for listening. For those of you who are not live, you are going to listen to Sarah talk about her experience going to SummerSlam. You've been listening to I will stop this stream right now. You've been listening to the Yeah We Know podcast, part of the More You Know's podcast network. You're in the ring with Jimmy, Chris, and Rod.
Damn you, Bronson Reed.
Goodbye, Net. Yeah. U.S. champ.
If we didn't talk about it, it didn't happen.
Oh, nice. I like that.